Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Diamond. How are you? So, this fucking month is so cool because I have been able to interview some of my favorite people, and this is one of them, Miss Janicia F. Well, Janicia, you want me to say Janicia Francis?
Um, yeah, you can say that.
Okay.
You
So,
can
she,
say Janicia
Jay,
Francis. That's me, Jay or Janicia. Yes.
yes. So, I have been following her for about 4 years. Yeah, about 4 years. About a year
Hmm.
before my podcast started.
Oh.
Yeah, about 4 years. And, she is one of those people that I think she's the host of Tea with Queen J. And she's one of those people who, in my mind, has I already thought I was woke, but then you meet some people who take you to another level. And you are one of those people.
Oh,
you
thank you,
know,
Diamond.
you are just one of those people who I think you just have a brilliant mind. Your openness about your emotionality, your openness about, you know, how you can think fucked up, but I can still examine it and where I'm at in
Mm-hmm.
the situation
Mm-hmm.
and really explore that. I think that's that's what draws me to the work that you do. So I definitely wanted to bring you on the show and really share with our audience um, people who might not know y'all. We share a lot of audience, but people who
Mm-hmm.
might not
Right.
be exposed to y'all
Mm-hmm.
brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
No, I just want to thank
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This is exciting. I love talking to you. It's exciting to do it in public.
you. Yes. So I wanted to bring you on and talk about hookup culture. So, what is
Okay.
your experience with hookup culture? Do you want to just define it?
Ooh, I don't know how to define hookup culture. But if you define it, then I could tell you my experience with
Okay, so
it.
so it's so many things that fall under the umbrella of hookup culture. We have um, casual sex. We have like no strings attached, one night stands. We call it different things like friends with benefits. It's usually like activities that include a wide range of things like sexual behavior, such as kissing, oral sex, penetration. However, when these things transpire, the what's really a root of a pillar tenant is that there's no promise of or desire of the more traditional romantic relationship. It's not like, oh, we're hooking up to get married in the hopes to get married, in the hopes to be in a committed relationship, in the hopes to be in this long-term thing. It's just hooking up just for the pleasure, just for you know the moment of satisfying, like, I guess, a urge or a release. So that's how I define it. What about you?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's like
Yes. No, I co-sign. I co-sign. I co-sign all of those things. So like when I was growing up, I didn't grow up when I was coming of age as like a teen and as somebody who was coming into my sexuality as it relates to involving other people. I grew up very like you got to stay a virgin. The when I came of age as a teenager, we were still in an era where it was okay to shame people for their sexual desires, women especially. So I think a lot of the public and like communal and social media energy that we see around hookup culture being okay and like make your own sexual choices and that it's okay to have sex for pleasure and desire and all those are things that I learned as an adult because I grew up in this really patriarchal Christian, like old school Christian household, older school than even the era that I grew up in. Like my house was just a fucking old ass Negro spiritual ass house for no fucking reason. Like my mom is mad young, so it was just like it's just some shit that happened to me. Um,
we grew
so
we grew up in the same
uh-huh.
kind of household because you grew up apostolic,
Yes,
Pentecostal.
apostolic, Pentecostal, like
Yeah.
hardcore, all of
Jean
that stuff.
dresses, no
Yes,
makeup.
dresses, no makeup, doily on your head.
Yes.
If you got your ears pierced, that's like, ooh,
Ooh.
risky. Like I waited mad long. I couldn't get my ears pierced, and it was just it was like a lot. So I grew up with that oppression, and then because as a teenager, I wasn't seeing I wasn't exposed to any kind of like liberation, or like it's okay to make your own choices as a woman, you have agency and shit like that. I didn't grow up with that. So those things I learned as an adult. And my best friend, even though she didn't grow up in a Christian oppressive Christian environment, we grew up in the same white supremacist patriarchal society. So like my best friend that I would go to with stuff like this, and we would talk about sex and all these things, when I was exploring the thought of like, yo, you ever think that like you could have more than one sexual partner at a time? Because
I feel.
Yeah, I was like, yo, you could just have like 3 people that you have regular sex with. That shouldn't be a problem. Yo, she lost her lid. She got scared. She stopped fucking with me. I'm like, we talked about everything else, and I introduced this one potentially new concept, and you fucking lose your shit. So I didn't have a lot of support like in that area in terms of like, so when I think about hookup culture, right, it took me until I was like a full grown person to be comfortable with navigating in that way. You know what I'm saying? To where I can sleep with who I want, even if I just slept with somebody else the night before, like that's fine. So yeah, I didn't start exploring that kind of energy until I was a lot older. I also, as a Black woman, a lot of us deal with fibroids. So that was like a barrier. They had gotten so intense. For anybody who doesn't know, those are, I'm going to use the growths or tumors. I would say maybe that line, if you're a person with a womb, that line can line the walls of the uterus or be around the uterus or whatever. And at the time where my fibroids had grown, it was starting to obstruct my ability to have vaginal sex. And so if I was going to have sex, it was going to be with somebody who I could have that conversation with, or I was comfortable having that conversation with, like, yeah, we can have sex, but I got to be in this position, or da-da-da-da-da. So I've since had surgery, thank God. And it's been helpful. So I deal with fibroids, but they're not obstructing my ability to engage in vaginal sex. So like, in terms of my ability, like I think for anyone who has physical challenges per se, or things that are not the norm, there's this feeling of, okay, I have to explain myself, and who do I feel like explaining myself to? Do I want to explain myself to a new person all the time or whatever? So I think that at that time of my life, I also wasn't engaging in hookup culture. But let me tell you, as soon as I got them fibroids removed, when I had a new pussy, Diamond, okay, the damage that was done, all right, the hooks that were up.
As it should be.
I was in these streets. I had a whole new pussy, and it was fabulous. So, yes.
So you talked about liberation, like sexual liberation. So one of the things that people say that it is liberating, and why hookup culture is a good thing, is because it empowers women, and particularly LGBTQ members, in letting them focus more on growth and careers rather than finding a partner, sex, just that kind of stuff. Overall, finding a sense of freedom and independence. So that's like the good pro side of it. But some people also think that it's kind of pretty unhealthy because it wears the mask of sexual liberation, but it's really, they feel like it really is just societal's pressure on us through the fear of intimacy and emotional vulnerability that leads us to having meaningless sex. And I can see how somebody can see that, because there's definitely this pressure that when you're young, that says that you can't commit to anyone because you're young, that this is a time to explore, this is a time to be free and get your experience. Because I remember feeling that at a young age. But over time I realized that it didn't change once I got older. And I think maybe that's because I'm a trans woman, but niggas is still trying to hook up and be unemotionally available.
Right. That part. Yeah. I think I feel like it's really hard if you are somebody who dates cis men. I find that it's really hard to just be vulnerable with every one of them. You know what I'm saying? Like I found when I was involved in hookup culture, I found that sure, there were aspects of that were a coping mechanism for dating people who were often emotionally unavailable and just fucking men. They're a problem, okay? Dating them is a problem. They're a problem, it is. And I've been thankful
the spectrum.
across the spectrum.
It doesn't matter if you're cisgender, transgender.
Yeah, they're a fucking problem. Men are a fucking problem. And so, you know, I say cisgender men because that's who I typically date. But like, I have been, as somebody in my 30s, I have been able to experience more healthy, fulfilling relationships with those people. but I think that there's this thing that the patriarchy does to women, and that says that like we're making bad choices, we're choosing the wrong kind of guys, or you know, if you date men, you're choosing the wrong kind of guys, and blah 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 blah. When in reality, they're trained that it's acceptable to gaslight, it's acceptable to withhold information, it's acceptable to be emotionally unavailable, and like just a lot of toxic shit that we have seen nurtured and made to be okay. So I feel like I feel like hookup culture serves a purpose, and it may be that it is when we talk about for people who date men, it may be that the purpose is to distract, it is a coping mechanism, it is a false sense of freedom perhaps. But I have found that when I was perhaps dating somebody that I was interested in, while they were showing me who they were, right? So while they were either proving to be somebody who I could trust and be vulnerable with, right? Or while they were proving to not be that person, while they were proving to be a patriarchal waste, it was comfortable for me to be dating other people, hooking up with other people, enjoying myself, having a good time. And yeah, I think it's different things for different people. I think that some people, and then that also sometimes ties into like our ideas about like monogamy and all those things. I think that it just depends on like what your wave is and what your vibe is. Usually when I'm dating, unless I'm deciding that, okay, I want to be in some kind of committed relationship with somebody, I do what I want with everyone. That's just like, you know, my motto. And I think that I have been lately calling it ethical non-monogamy as I explore that, because I really don't want at any point people feel like they have rights to you and they associate ownership with relationship and with love and with caring and intimacy and stuff like that. And I find that I feel like men do that earlier than they should. Like they assume that women are supposed to carry themselves a certain way and they can do whatever they want. I even honestly, I hate talking about this shit because it's so fucking it's binary, it's boring, it's centers the fucking whackness of that is dating. Like it is it's a fire, it's a dumpster fire, you know? Yeah. And I know that I'm talking so bad about it. I do have fruitful and valuable relationships with cis men. Like I have been doing that, but I don't think I because of that, that doesn't mean that I can ignore the fact that it is often a dumpster fire. And even with those relationships that have been valuable, there is still this stance that I have to take and remind them like, hey, listen, just to give you a heads up, I'm not the one, right? It's like everybody tries it, whether it be something simple as I'm gonna gaslight you and pretend the conversation that we had yesterday is not the actual conversation that we had, right? Or I'm gonna shift the energy right now because something that you said, you're asking me too many questions, you're making me uncomfortable or whatever. It's like, feels like it's always something with them. Sorry, I don't know how I got there, but
No,
I hate it here.
For me, I'm one of those people who were invested in that monogamy, that that ownership idea. Like, if you are my man, you mine, and I don't want to share you with anybody. And it was definitely connected to my identity and what I thought like a woman should be, how I should navigate the world as a woman. It was, this is what you do. Like, every woman in my family has a husband, somebody who chose them. So I want to be chosen. And, they're protective over their man. Don't be sitting on my man lap. Don't be talking. I remember my mama would talk shit about a bitch calling the phone and not acknowledging that she's in the room. That guy, this is how the women navigate. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, that's how I should be too. And so as I got older, what the hookup culture did for me, it just gave me practice in the arena that you were just talking about. The hookup culture allowed me to negotiate sex, in the practice to negotiate sex, the practice to negotiate my boundaries in and out of sex, but the practice of saying what I wanted and it's really centering myself and not centering the men. And because sometimes when I was in that mode of I'm just trying to present the type of woman that I think that you would choose, it would be this negotiation that would not center me. It's like, how far can I compromise to make me choosable? How can, if I say this is what I want sexually or non-sexually, whatever, is it going to make me not, you're going to think I'm a prude, or is it going to make me not be available to you? Is going to turn you off? Because I do kind of like you, so I don't turn you off. So hookup culture for me gave me and escorting too. Because when you have that exchange of money where it's really transactional, you really get a lot of practice in, this is what I do, this is what I want to do, and this is what it costs to do it. If you don't want to pay me this, it's really transactional. But in a non-business way, it still gave me the practice in saying what I wanted and me being the center of, and practicing making me the center, so I don't have those, so I can acknowledge when you're gaslighting and not immediately adjusting to, he's uncomfortable, I don't want to make him uncomfortable.
And I feel like we're taught to do that. A lot of us, I was taught to do that, like, for the men in my life from a very young age. I was taught to bend to whatever energy my father introduced into the room. I was taught to bend, it's the holidays, and whatever energy the men in the room want the space to have, I was taught to bend to that. You know what I'm saying? It is expected of me now to make sure that I'm not causing a ruffle to any of the men in the space when I go for holidays or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not doing it, which is why I'm the problem person. But like, it's it's something that we're taught to do. And I feel like the expectation, it continues. And there is this expectation when you date men that you are trying to get chose or you're on some sort of audition. And I feel like I have to constantly remind whoever I'm dating that I'm not auditioning for anything. I'm not trying to keep you. I'm not doing anything. You know what I'm saying? I'm not doing anything. And when you try to gaslight me, because you will, or when you try to, when you try to shift the energy or whatever, I'm going to call it out. So as long as you're comfortable with me fighting you, then we can do this until I'm over it, you know?
And it's a constant battle because particularly using the tools that we have in this era. I think back in the day, like when I was a teenager or in my early 20s, we didn't have the access to the things that we have now with dating sites and apps and blah, 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 blah. With the apps, it's a constant reminder because niggas will be quick to tell you if you don't do something or y'all have any kind of argument, they will quick to say, oh, see, this is why you're on here single, because you can't get along with people, or you can't make any compromises. So you can't blah, 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 blah. They will quickly throw that up in your face. But I'm like, nigga, you all here with me, motherfucker. But in my mind, with the tools, it just seemed like it's a constant battle, particularly in this era, and particularly as a trans woman and a Black woke woman, which I think that you can relate to, when you have those kind of ideologies that are anti-patriarchal, anti-white, anti-white supremacy, and trying to be pro-Black and not anti-Black. Right. You get these niggas coming in your inbox or coming talking to you, or you're dating them and they're attractive, quote unquote, and you're trying to see what's going on with them, and then you learn some things, and then when you try to be like, that doesn't really feel right, that doesn't sound right, let me tell you what I learned about this. Oh, you think you know everything, or you a woman, so you don't understand, and blah 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 blah. For me, I feel like the objectification that that they put us under is just so constant that now at this age, I just feel like it's almost like the more woke I get, the less desirable I become. Yes. And I'm going to end up being a cat lady.
You're not going to be a cat lady. No shade to the cat ladies, yo. Shout outs to the cat ladies. We need cat ladies. No, I think something that I have learned, right, is that the more comfortable I am in my politics and the more like I hold that firm and I'm open about that, like in my dating, like the more fulfilling the relationships that I have are, right? So it is uncomfortable dating men because it's like those challenges always arise it's always something at some point, no matter how woke the man is that you date, at some point, because he's still a man, something patriarchal is going to come up that needs to be addressed, and maybe it'll go fine when you address it, or maybe it'll be like fucking weird or whatever. But I think that a part of what keeps us from living in our full, like, free Black ass, Black woman, whoever we are, truth, is that when it comes to the patriarchy in particular, is that fear that we will become, the more woke we become, or the more outwardly woke we are, woke for lack of a better word, the less desirable we will be. And I have found that there's a man for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever level of woke you are, whatever energy you're bringing, whatever you have to offer, there's a man who's fucking with that. And it's like you have no idea that they exist until you start living in that truth. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like people, I don't engage with a lot of men on social or anywhere, unless we are considering a relationship, because I don't like to be exhausted, right? So for those men who do engage with me on social or whatever, or those who see me perhaps on an episode of The Grapevine and assume my dating prospects because of my politics, or that I'm angry and don't have a man, or that I don't fuck with men or whatever, right? Because I mean, I don't, but I have sex with them, but like, you know what I mean? But who assume that I'm so like anti-man that there's nobody treating me right or whatever. Like, I have awesome, tender, fucking dope ass relationships, and motherfuckers treat me tender. And that's another thing that I affirm as somebody trying to dismantle the patriarchy, and specifically as a Black woman, is that I'm a tender ass bitch. I'm tender. Talk to me nice, talk to me soft. I know that I'm tall and I have a deep voice, so I have to remind you that I'm a tender ass bitch, because you're gonna try and treat me like I'm like one of your homeboys, and that you don't have to apologize, and you could hurt me, and I'm allegedly strong or whatever the fuck. Talk to me nice. I'm a tender ass bitch, and I have to remind whoever I'm dating, I have to remind them of that pretty regularly. But it's a reference point, so that you know when I have a problem with what you're doing, it's because I'm a tender ass bitch and you're talking to me crazy now. I don't know who you, don't talk to me like that. Talk to me tender, talk to me nice. And it actually reminds me of, and I love like those who came before us, but it reminds me of, her name is escaping me right now, but that conversation that she had with James Baldwin, you know who I'm talking about?
Nikki Giovanni.
Thank you. It reminds me of that conversation that she had with James Baldwin, that we've been seeing that clip kind of float around from back in the day, where she's like, bring me the best of you when you come home. Bring me
Right.
the best of you, like, regardless to what you're going through, because I'm bringing you the best of me. You know what I'm saying? So, like, talk to me fucking nice. We're both dealing with crazy shit in the streets. Talk to me fucking nice. And I think
You
that,
don't come home and abuse me as a
yes,
reaction to the fucking man fucking
yes,
you over.
right,
We both dealing with that. So when
exactly.
you touch me, bring me the love that you want so I can give you the love
Yes.
that back to you. Yeah.
Exactly. And it doesn't, no matter how deep my voice is, no matter what the fuck my pronouns are, no matter how you feel like, you know, I'm down, and I could also like give you dap because that's how I move. No matter that we're both dressed in Tim's and practically the same outfit because I just want to wear the same clothes as my partner. Like, no matter what, I'm telling you, I'm a tender ass bitch, so treat me that way. And I also, since we're having this tender ass bitch conversation about Black women, as light skinned women, we are also treated with the tenderness that a lot of dark skinned women are not granted. And so I want to affirm that experience as well, though I don't date men who do not also date dark skinned women as just a practice. Like, that's not a part of my politic, but I cannot pretend I cannot not acknowledge that I'm sure that there are people who treat me with tenderness that they might not treat my dark-skinned women counterparts with. And it's important that I acknowledge that, even though that is something that I struggle with, there are dark-skinned women who battle. That's an uphill battle for them every day,
Yes.
you know,
Right.
in ways that I'll never know. You know what I'm saying?
And this is for somebody who's listening. We're woke about our light skinness, so we can say stuff like that. But say that you're a light skinned girl that's listening to this. What we're telling you, in the same that we talk about white people, when we say like, it's not poor white people. It's not that you don't have oppression or you don't have pressure or you don't have some kind of war thing that you got to deal with, but your whiteness is not one of those things that's making you a problem. So for us, yes, it's not like me being light skinned is not gonna doesn't come with its own layer of problems or pressure just because I'm light skinned. You think I'm stuck up or just be da 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 da. But what we're saying is that our light skin can lead men to treat us a little bit more tender, not fully tender, like we don't got no problems, but for a dark skinned girl where the dark skin is stereotyped as rough,
not less than tender,
simple,
right? Not tender, right? Yes,
not
yes.
tender, blah,
Not
blah, blah,
deserving
blah.
of care and delicateness or whatever.
We're reminded.
Yes. All Black women are deserving of that care and delicateness that many of us are denied. You know what I'm saying? Just as a standard. However, the lighter you are, the more likely, the closer to whiteness you appear, the more likely you are to be treated with a certain tenderness that is not afforded every Black woman. So I just want to, even though I do struggle with receiving tenderness in my relationships and I fight for that, I do want to acknowledge that I have privilege in that area, and there are people who have to fight for that shit even stronger
more
than I do. Yes.
I remember this nigga, I was coming from the store, and I sometimes I hear light-skinned bitches like complain about certain shit, and I'm like, I know you going through the same shit that I go through. I know you getting the same affirmations that what these dark-skinned girls is telling you is the fucking truth. Because I remember I was coming from the store and I was walking past and these niggas, and he like walked up to me. He was like, "Damn, baby girl, blah blah blah, typical shit." He was like, "I love red bitches. Like, I would never fuck with a dark skinned girl. Y'all just I just da 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 and
delete, ignore, deny."
And I turned around, I was like, "Is that supposed to be cute to me?"
Right.
Now, when I was younger and woke, I would be like, I don't think I would be like, not. I wouldn't say that I'm like anything like I'm better than dark skinned girls, but I wouldn't check him. I would be like, "Oh, you silly boy," and think that's cute because you are attracted to me, especially as a trans woman who don't get that kind of love, and you affirming my womanhood. Da da da. I would be like, "Oh, that's cute." Da, 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 da. Anyway, whatever. But when I got older, it started to, and more woke. I would literally be like, "Nigga, like, is that supposed to be attracted to me? That's anti-Black as fuck. At the end of the day, I'm a Black woman, and I don't want to date a motherfucker that's anti-Black. I don't need to hear that shit. That shit ain't cute." And I feel like it's my place to tell him that shit ain't cute. I don't need to reward him. I don't need to reward him in that mindset that is marginalized another group of women that I care about. Get the fuck out of here. So for me, if you are not acknowledging that that shit happens and you making it seem like it doesn't happen, bitch, you lying.
Yeah.
Bitch, you lying. Check that shit at the door.
Right. Yeah. Not only are you lying if you deny that that happens, but you're also not doing your part. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a part of our responsibility as people with light skin privilege is to do our part in dismantling colorism. You know what I'm saying? And so if you deny that it exists, then you off rip. We know you're not doing your part if you're pretending that it's not a thing that's happening.
Right.
You know? So yeah, no, you have to, a part of doing our part in that is naming it as a thing and bringing that shit up when nobody fucking asked me. You didn't ask me about that shit, but we have to, you know, we have to be sure that we are naming and claiming our privilege as a means of dismantling that shit.
How do you know balance when it's a fetish and when it's just they're into you? How do you balance? I want you to like my light skin. I want you to like how I look. I want you to like how I feel. And I want you to like everything about me. I want you to love it. But I don't want you to fetish it. I don't want that to be the only reason why you like me. I don't want that to be the main reason why you like me. How do you balance that?
I honestly, I don't do compliments on like my complexion. Like usually I feel like you could smell it. Like there's so many other things to compliment me on. Like I didn't do anything to get this complexion. I didn't do anything. It's not my blackness, my kinky hair, my features, my facial features. Yeah, sure. I guess my not whiteness, but I don't need a complexion compliment. Any complexion compliments to me are a red flag. Any of that is a red flag. I don't date anybody who only date light-skinned women. I don't date anybody who only dates women with a certain kind of hair. You know what I'm saying? With like a straight hair. If you don't date 4C girls, or if I'm your first 4C girl, that's odd. I don't care what they tell me. Like if there's a pattern of you only date light-skinned women, I don't really want to be a part of it. You know what I mean? Right. And I usually ask that, like, just in dating pretty early. I am also colorism exists everywhere, but I feel like I have experienced more conversations about color when I date men from elsewhere in the country, like men who are from outside of New York. So it's a red flag to me when somebody I'm hanging out with is always mentioning my complexion, whether it be to say something good or to make fun of it, because I also feel, and I love a good joke. If it's fucking funny, then that's fine. But if you say something that's just the punchline is light skin, that's like, what is this? But I find often that in relationship with people who do that, whether it be friends or potential romantic partners, I find that there is an element of anti-Blackness and preferential colorism towards light-skinned folks, even in those jokes. It's like this hyper awareness. Like, why are you so hyper? What's happening in this moment that you are so hyper aware of my complexion that you are making those kinds of comments? And that, to me, even if they're saying disparaging things about my complexion, unless they're hilarious, because I like hilarious, but if they're just saying disparaging things about my complexion, that also leads me to believe that they are colorist, like anti-dark skin, anti-black, because of this hyper awareness that's happening right now. So so anything like that, I don't give a shit how smart you think I am or whatever. That's a red flag to me. So I have never dated anyone who I felt like, oh, they say colorist things, but I could tell they really like me for me. Because I don't like the fact that they're colorist in any direction, whether they really fucks with me or not. I don't want to fucks with you. So so I haven't really had to balance that. I would say the first time I ever really dealt with that was, I was like 13 and I was dating this guy. We already had liked each other and was hanging out, and then one day he was like, yeah, me and my brother, we always date the light-skinned shorties. And I was like, wait, what? What? Yeah. And like, I knew he liked me, but also I didn't know you were colorist. You know what I'm saying? So I think that was the first time, and the closest I came to. I know a lot of people have younger, light skin, dark skin stories. I didn't really grow up with that. So that would, like, all of my three siblings, we're light skinned because of my dad and my mom. Primarily my dad's side gave us this abomination. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, all of my cousins who I saw on the regular were all dark skin, brown skin, all different colors. I didn't think about my complexion until I went to college, and I was like, oh, these are my cousins or whatever. And they're like, oh, your family is dark skin. I hadn't even considered like the dynamics of all of that. Anyway, I say all that to say, I know a lot of people grow up with all kinds of color stuff as they're coming of age. I didn't really experience that. We talked about color just so that you would like be aware of shit, but I didn't really experience like the colorism thing until I was dating this boy, and he was like, yeah, we always date the light skinned shorties. Like it was a thing, like there was weight to that. So
for me, it was more, when I was young, I come from a Mississippi country ass family,
right?
So it was constant. It's constant there, but navigating the world as a little boy, it was very different when I was younger. When I transitioned to be diamond, the difference in colorism, in the disparities between, I was really conscious, the disparities between colorism and dark-skinned men and light-skinned men. There is a difference because dark-skinned men have, because dark skin, quote unquote, is associated with masculinity and being more masculine and that actually is a privilege on the male side. Not
when it
saying
comes
that
to dating,
not saying that light skin and pretty eyes and curly hair doesn't give privilege to light skinned men.
Right.
I think that the disparity is smaller between dark skinned men and light skinned men. But when you come over to the woman side, that disparity is much, much larger. That wide gap of privilege is, to me, in my experience, is much larger and much more pronounced. Like when I was a little child, you didn't really hear it you heard it sometimes, but not too much. But once I started navigating the world as a light-skinned woman, it was totally different. You started to hear it. You started to pay attention to what was being said. You started to see it in magazines. And maybe it's because I was navigating as a woman, but it just was totally different. So,
yeah, no, I feel you.
As I got older, I really had to balance, particularly about my transness. I really had to balance and really be conscious of, when is this being a fetish? When is this being, I'm just really into you? And colorism is one of the things. Like I started to pay attention, like, oh, this is just a colorist thing in you. It's not just you're into me. But sometimes it is, you're just into me and you just like me. And so that's what I wanted to know, if you experienced that too. So.
I think also, I mean, I do experience. I think also, I'm a 4C girl, and like all of my other features are pretty stereotypical Black girl. You know what I'm saying? So like, I think that there is texturism. I think that shit plays a factor into it. Like a lot of the things that come with a certain affinity for light-skinnedness, I don't really have those things. Like I'm light skinned. That's where it stops. You know what I'm saying? And so it does exist. I do pay attention to it, look out for it, and do my best to avoid colorism at all costs. But I think a lot of those things, in terms of like what men desire, it's like, you know, the hair they can put their hands through, and like, you know what I'm saying? It's a certain look of whiteness that, aside from being light skinned, I don't really have. You know what I mean? So yeah.
So there are so many unique things about you. But one of them that I think that is more unique than other things is your demisexuality. And so I wanted to talk about that. And especially in regards to like hookup culture and just to kind of explore how you navigate that in the world that we live in now. So demisexual is defined as they don't experience like that's typical sexual arousal or sexual desire without like an emotional connection to someone. Can you,
like
do you agree with that? Or attraction?
I would say, yeah, I would agree with that. I think that, but I didn't come to this realization until a few years ago, right? Because I had heard of it before. The first time I heard of it, it felt so like black and white, like so like you either are attracted to people physically and that works for you or not, or you know what I mean? It was just so this or that I didn't really identify with it because I am a very sexual person. But as I learned more about it, as I heard other people talk more about it, I identified with that feeling of I'm very rarely just physically attracted to people, you know? And so I need more. I need to have a conversation. I need to have an experience with you. I need to have a connection before I can feel anything. When I was younger, a lot of times I would know that somebody was attractive because somebody else said it. Like somebody would be like, "Oh, he's cute," and I'll be like, "Oh, okay, cool." You know what I mean? I guess that's what cuteness is. All right, yeah, I'll date them. They seem nice, sure. In my adult life, that has manifested itself as I would go on dates with people, and I'm a great date, so I always have a good time, right? So there's that. I have that working against me, Diamond. But you know, if I had a good enough time and there weren't any red flags, I would like give it another chance. I feel like certain dates I would give more chances than I needed to because I'm demisexual and because I don't know if I'm not attracted to this person because we're really not a good match or because I don't really like anybody, because I don't really feel connected. So I'm like giving it this chance to build this vibe in order for me to feel some kind of sexual connection. And I think that, or attraction. And I think that there were times when I was right about that and was like, okay, I'm glad that I gave this another go. And there were other times it was like, I kept like, all right, I guess I'll, sure, try it again. This person is nice enough and, see where it goes or whatever. And it just really was just a bad call, but it was hard for me to really gauge it because I'm not really attracted to anyone. You know what I'm saying? So I do have a type. That's the other thing that had initially, I wasn't sure. Maybe I'm not demisexual because I do have a type, but it's so specific and it's so rare that I meet my type or match my type or find it. So my type is really just big. Like, are you tall? Like, I like
AKA everybody's type.
Right, everybody's type, right? Are you tall? I like tall, like big, solid dudes. So you could be like big and identify as fat. You could be tall and big and muscular. You could be tall and big and any variety.
Tall and sizable man.
Right. Tall, sizable person. But also, okay, that's my type physically, but also like, are you smart? Are you all the other things? Like, are you tall and sizable? And do I like looking at you or whatever? So like, and in New York, I feel like men just grow to the size of the container, right? In New York, it's such a small, like everybody's apartment is small. We're packed in. So it's not a lot of that here. But yeah, so I felt like there were times when I would come across someone like that, and there were times when we would have a connection, but that was so rare. So usually I'm dating someone who doesn't fit that necessary, that type per se. So I'm giving myself space and time to like really get to know them and really connect. But it did feel for a long time like something is wrong with me. Like something is wrong with me. Everyone is having easy to connect with people, easy to be attracted to them. Like I said, I go on dates. I'm a great date. I have a great time. It's great. I don't feel anything. Like, you know what I mean? It's just that was really challenging. And so it was comforting at a big age, as a big grown person, to hear like, oh, there are other people who have this experience. This is not something that Janicia is like doomed to not understand how to navigate. So yeah, I would say that that's a relief, but also I think that I was initially put off by, all of us want to be able to put things in one box. Go ahead.
Before you go on, because I really want to, because what you're talking about now, it's about boxes and categories and labels, right?
Yes.
So I really want to give a little bit of context before you go on.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a terminology like a label paradox. And the paradox is that labels are not that important. And the flip side is labels are super important.
Yes.
So it's a paradox that happens when we come to, and we're talking about a label of demisexuality. And this is just something that is not norm. You know, the normals are homosexuality, heterosexuality, blah, blah, blah. This is something that's a little bit out the box that may not be as popular. So, and then some people will be listening and say, girl, I'm like that. I like to get more connected to people. And it's just a little bit different.
Thank you. It's different.
It's a little bit different. So the paradox, I want to explain that a little bit more. So understand that finding out what label somebody uses, and understand the language that they use when they're talking to themselves, that is like the first step in showing that you respect and understanding that you're listening to them. So when somebody give you a label and a category, and this can range from a sexual orientation, it can range from, a gender identity, it's blackness, like race, like what you want to be considered, whatever label, a category that they want you to call them, to them, it is really important because it let them know that you are open. It lets you know that you respect and you're listening to them, and you want to convey that you want to respect their identity and their ability to self-define. But on the flip side of how it's not important is that there's a reason why these things are meaningless, in the sense that it's just to get you in the door, because there never is going to be a consensus about what these terms mean.
That part.
There's never going to be a blanket statement that's going to cover everybody. Think about transgender. That word, so many people think about that word differently. Think about blackness. We sitting here, we got a whole black woman about to be vice president, and you got people talking about, but she's not black, and the other side talking about she is black. Oh, she's biracial, and like we don't see biracial black people, and all this kind of stuff. We having these kind of conversations. Nobody is going to have the consensus, so it really, it doesn't really mean anything because everybody doesn't agree. And also, in order for you to actually make a connection with people, that particular label is really not important in you making in dealing with their needs, in dealing with their concerns, in dealing with their experiences. That label is just the beginning, the key to kind of get them to pay attention, to let them know that you care, but their needs are deeper than their labels. Their concerns are deeper than their labels. Their experiences are much, much more deeper than their labels. So understand that when we're exploring these new terms and these new ideas, that is just to give someone who may be under this label an idea of, oh, aha, this might be me. This might be explaining what I've been feeling, because I don't have the experience that Jay just described. When I see a dude, the physicality immediately hits me. The sexual attraction immediately hits me. I either am not into you or I am. There doesn't need to be an emotional connection when I see a guy. Some of them I'm not initially attracted to. I'm not initially like, oh my God, I bet you'd be a good lay, or I bet you I want to see him naked, or da-da-da-da. Some dudes I'm not initially attracted to, but then when I do talk to them, it's like, oh, he's kind of brilliant. Oh, and then it kind of sparks, but I don't need that connection. So I wanted to kind of just break that down for people who may be listening.
Right. So when I first heard of it, it sounded so specific, and it was like, yeah, I feel like that most of the time. But once in a blue, I will come across somebody and be like, oh, so that's a man. You know what I'm saying? every once in a while, I'll come across somebody and be like, okay, all right, I feel a thing. Is this what y'all be talking about? This is the thing y'all be feeling? So I felt like because there were times when I did feel sexual attraction, aside from like a different that, okay, well, maybe I'm not demisexual, but so much of the rest of the time I feel like, okay, sure, you say that person's cute, sure, they're cute, or just so disconnected in that particular way. And it felt really, when I found out that like it's a thing, and like before that I felt kind of broken. It was like, okay, well, I guess that part of me just doesn't work, and that's just what it is. The way I always described it was, I don't really like people. They're ugly, I don't like them. That's just it, right? And so I would date in hopes that I would feel a connection with somebody and we could really vibe, and then, you know, sexual attraction would come from that. And to your point, I'm so glad you said that. A lot of people would be like, oh, well, that's just how I like to date anyway. There's a difference between like making a choice to, I prefer to get to know someone before I sleep with them, than to, I have to get to know someone before I sleep with them or grow intimate with them, because otherwise there's nothing there. It's not really so rarely is it a choice for me to do that.
Right. So how were you navigating hookup culture? Because just earlier you were like, you know, there was a time.
Yes.
What's the song on Insecure, Broken Pussy? When I got my shit,
I definitely had a broken pussy. When I got a new pussy, I was out here. But that for me, that meant like the first guy I had a one night stand with. It was our second date, and we had been texting for weeks. It might have been months that we were texting, but we weren't like talking to each other on the phone all the time. We weren't hanging out as much. It was only our second date. All of our other communications had been via text while I was doing other stuff. You know, they were good. I was like that was another thing. So we were creating some connection over text, which is why I'm one of those people who, I don't think that texting is not real. I don't think that social media is not real. Like, those are bridges of communication for me. You know what I'm saying? So like, I've never had a one night stand where I was like out at a bar, you know, having drinks and laughing, and then I went home with this guy. Like, that's never happened to me. So my versions of one night stands are the second date I had with this guy. And like, our first date was a quick, you know, drink at a bar. And then our second date was another quick drink at a bar, but we were laughing and like, but so many weeks of connection had already been made. And so my hookup culture is, I was hooking up with him and I was dating some guy who had already been new from before, but we had just started dating and hooking up again. And then perhaps someone else who was also someone who I had been texting with for a long time, and there was a foundation of something there already, so that when we did meet for perhaps the second time, it was like, oh, this is a vibe. So a vibe was created.
It's almost like a car. Like, your sexuality has to warm up.
Yes.
That's how I imagine it. It has to warm up. And how that warm up happens is in that communication, that bridge of communication. Mm-hmm, okay, that makes sense. Have you ever been in a situation where you thought like you were dating someone and it was going really, really well, but because you weren't giving them the sexual energy that they thought that you should, that they thought that you weren't into them? Have you ever been in that situation? Because I would think as a demisexual that it would come up, like, because you're kind of just going with the flow, and you could be enjoying their company, but you're not giving off the sexual vibe because it hasn't got there. You ain't warmed up yet. And they're like, well, she be going out on a date, but it's not giving me the vibe that you want to fuck.
I am a very sexual person also, like, on top of being a demisexual. So there's never been anyone who I did actually like who I wasn't being sexual with, right? Because I don't know. The thing would be, I didn't know if I liked you yet. Flirt, I have trouble with that. Too. Okay. So unless we are if we're on a date, I can better flirt with you because I know what we're here to do. We're here to get to know each other and potentially it be a thing, so I can flirt. I am terrible going out with a bunch of friends. And like, let's say it could even be so cute and casual as like being at a housewarming and actually meeting friends of friends. And again, I mostly date men. So if a man is flirting with me in this environment that's not like a date, like I don't really know what to do. I'm a charming person, so I'm usually, you know, if I'm in a talkative mood, I'm usually joking and laughing anyway. But the flirting thing is I'm not good at it. So, and that's in the most comfortable of situations, like in somebody's house or something, but like at a bar and somebody's trying to give me the fucking eye or whatever, I don't.
You don't pick up.
I don't pick up. And then often if I do pick up, I get afraid because I don't like you. I don't care. I already know I don't like you because nothing has happened. I don't know you. And so I don't like you. And so and no one ever comes to me who is my exact type. And even when that happens, I get a little bit scared because I do still need a second. I need like the times that I have hooked up or connected with a guy who is my exact type of like big sizable dude who is also whatever brand of woke I'm into in that moment or whatever, like we were still texting for some time. We had met via one of these apps or whatever, and it just happened to work when we did finally like connect. But yeah, really bad at the like impromptu flirting, that whole game. Like that's another, like just like going out when I was that age where I was like, hey, we're going to go out and maybe meet other people. That's never like that for me. You know what I mean? So I just always like to let me just be having fun with whoever I'm with, wherever I'm at, because the chances of me connecting with anyone this evening are like
low.
Slim to, that's not,
So what I also a scenario just it was kind of cool. Not I don't want to say cool. I guess it was kind of cool to go down the wormhole of like researching this because I was thinking about situations that you could potentially be in. Mm-hmm. So that was one, but another one is it seems like you would fall in love with a friend quite unexpectedly or quite often. Like say somebody that you're hanging out with and your friend with. I could see a demisexual falling in love with a friend who is, because y'all not in a dating potential, I could see you falling in love with a friend and they're like, and they don't know it.
Right. Well, I don't believe in male friends because men are garbage. So there's that. So that makes it easy. But I have been in work situations where it happened like that. And so now yes, I feel like I'm one for developing a crush on somebody. So work environments where I have to see someone every day and we've gotten to know each other, those are like prime potential dating disasters, of course. You can't just be fucking dating everybody you work with. But so those scenarios where I'm around this person often, that's the easiest way for me to like connect with people.
Then I could see situations where you're like in a guilt situation because people thinking you are a prude or you're frustrating people by not valuing the act of sex as much as they do. So you could be in a situation where you're just kind of having sex out of obligation. Have you been in that situation?
Yes, as a younger person, kind of, just kind of going through the motion of it. Yes, and then not really, not being into it. Or I've been in situations because I'm because of being demisexual, where I feel like I don't know what it is a lot of times to really like someone. Right. So I've been in relationships with people who I didn't really like all that much, but it's like, we got so far into this. I don't really like you, but also I don't know that if we end this, I don't know that I'll ever like anyone. You know what I mean? Because the added thing to all of this, like this is a cute conversation, but the added layer to this is the fucking patriarchy. Yes. And so even if I wasn't demisexual and my attraction was like status quo and I was sexually attracted to men or whatever, like the patriarchy is such a fucking turnoff that like, if I'm dating somebody who is not on that patriarchy shit, our politics are similar and everything is fine. I've been in relationships with really great people and everything is fine. It's like, like, I don't have the experience where if I end this with you, I know that there's there's a better attraction out there, because I haven't really had those loves or attractions or connections with people at that level. And the times that I did, because of the patriarchy and because of how toxic those exchanges were, part of me associated that level of attraction with toxicity. You know what I'm saying? So right now I'm dating somebody who I am very attracted to, and there's not that level of toxicity. But this is very rare. This is rare for me. I'm not like, it's new. It's new as fuck. Like that energy. Because the few times that I have really liked someone, there was this like patriarchal toxicity there. And the times when it wasn't there, I didn't like them that much. And that was like freeing even. But yeah, all of it is confusing. And I feel like demisexuality puts a layer of like confusion kind of to it. Cause it's really like, what am I really feeling here? What should I be prioritizing? So yeah.
Do you have a fear of sharing your demisexuality with people that you're potentially dating to avoid like feeling like you're less attractive, or to avoid feeling like you will be turned into a conquest? Because I feel like that would be a problem too, where if somebody feels like, oh, she's one of them girls that you got to really get close to her, so she probably don't have a lot of partners, and so how can I turn this into I can conquer her? Have you ever been, or were you ever scared to share that or experience that?
I think because I've only been identifying this way over the last few years, like I've only just come to really understand what this is all about, or have a label for it rather. I have not experienced that as much as I have been dating. Like the recent people who I have been dating, I did let them know, but I think I let them know after I was already with the shits. So after I already established that I think that I actually like this person, that's when I talked about it. It did. There was a guy who I was talking to virtually because of Corona Quarantino. Excuse me. We have been talking virtually. We built a connection virtually, strong vibe, strong connection, sexting, FaceTime, sex calls, all of that good fun stuff. And we fell off for a minute, and then he tried to come back with the sexting and all of that other stuff. And I had to remind him, I was like, hey, I know I mentioned this before, but I'm demisexual. So like, I don't like, a part of why I was into you was because you were talking to me nice and treating me tender and shit, and we had a connection. You know what I'm saying? And while I'm a very sexual person, I'm not really attracted to you right now because we don't have anything right now. Like there's nothing, even though this is just over text, this is just over the phone, you disappeared and we have which is really like, doesn't really mean that much. And honestly, if I felt anything, I would be down with this video of your dick, but like, I don't feel anything because we don't have anything right now. I need to have something. So
It worked before, but it can't work now because I'm not warmed up.
Right. You had warmed me up before. We had a thing before, and now we don't have anything except that we used to text last month. But I need to, if you're trying to like do this again, you have to start over. Like that's not, it's just, you can't just come back with it.
And I'm communicating that. A lot of dudes don't understand that. Sometimes I'm just communicating so you know. Right. I'm just communicating, this is how I think. Yeah. So if you don't understand how I think, then it's not about me being difficult. I'm just telling you, this is a roadblock. If you're trying to get me to be where you want me to be, this is the hurdle that you got to cross.
Yeah. So I do usually tell people, but I don't typically share that like super early in our text exchanges or whatever. If it comes up in conversation, then but I haven't had that experience where somebody felt it was a conquest. But also, men are garbage, and I'm so easily turned off by anyone that feels like dating me in any way is any kind of conquest, that I would just shut that down, pretty early. But I'm pretty comfortable with the shutdown. Like I think thinking of dating in abundance Like, if you believe that there are quality dudes out there, and if you're someone who dates dudes, if you believe there are quality dudes out there, like, I feel like as Black women who date men, I feel like we were taught that there aren't enough good Black men out there, and we were taught to kind of buy into this scarcity model. And I feel like kind of what you were talking about before, there's an extra layer to that when you come to a certain type of liberation, when you come to a certain type of consciousness. It's like the pool seems to become even smaller, right? Because now you want to make sure that the person you're dating is not fucking colorist, transphobic, classist, elitist, ableist, all that shit. But I feel like just as we approach anything else, I feel like it's important to approach dating in terms of like abundance and not scarcity. So a part of thinking in abundance is being able to tell somebody who I feel like is looking at me as a competition, like, oh, I'm not, okay, we're not doing this. Or someone one time, just in the early stages of texting on Tinder, was asking me a bunch of questions, and it started to feel like an interview. Like, he was being kind of jokey with it, and I guess it was supposed to be okay. But it was like a certain series, and I was like, this is just to give you a heads up. This is starting to feel like an interview, and I'm not really feeling that energy. So he apologized and switched it up, and it was okay. He unmatched me, which perfect. That's fantastic. But if I was concerned with this scarcity, I might have just rolled that out, because the interview doesn't last forever. You know what I'm saying? I might have just wrote it out and taken it from there. But I think it's important that we approach our dating life with the same thoughts of like abundance that we tell ourselves to approach other things, you know?
While I have you here, we have a lot of trans folks that listen to this podcast, and you are one of the women who I think have just great politics around transness when it comes to who you date and how you date. And I wanted to share that because a lot of times within our community as trans women, there is a vitriol that happens when we talk about cis women because they don't meet women who are trans affirming. Right. And it's an actual practice in their life. Mm-hmm. So can you just talked about not wanting to date somebody who's transphobic. Can you talk about how you navigate dating and transphobia as a cis woman who dates men?
Something that I have been trying to do and be more proactive with in my dating of late is to make sure that I'm asking people who I date, asking them, who do they love? You know what I mean? Just making sure that I set the tone that this is, when it comes to that this is a safe space. You know what I'm saying? And so we're talking about all kinds of stuff. We're talking about the kind of sex that we had. We're talking about the places that we've been. We're talking about everything. And so, when I ask, oh, who do you love? Do you only date straight women? Do you only date women? Do you date trans women? Like, it's important to me that I make it so that whoever I'm dating feels comfortable sharing that with me. And that I also affirm that, especially as somebody who usually when I start dating someone, I am ethically exploring ethical non-monogamy to an extent. It's important that I affirm also, because I've only had this experience with one person, like this particular line of like questioning and open communication, being proactive with that. So when he says no, or if he says no, just making sure that I'm saying, okay, well, if that's something that you decide in the course of our relationship that you want to explore in terms of like your dating life or the people that you're dating, just know that I'm comfortable with that. Or if it's something that you're curious about and want to talk about, I'm comfortable with having those conversations as well. So that's something that I've been trying to make sure that I'm proactive about and not being silent about when it comes to being in community with Black trans women, which I think is something that we have to be. We can't just silently, we can't just say, stop killing them without doing something or finding something that we can do. When we know that we engage with these people, the people who kill Black trans women, we engage with them. They're in our community. We date them. We know them, you know? And so a part of me making sure that the person I'm dating is not transphobic, that's a part of that conversation. And making sure that I'm not creating an environment of transphobia through my silence, you know what I'm saying? And not talking about it at all.
If you're a cis woman listening to this is not saying Oh, here we go. Pick up another burden to the cis Black women, because we're not saying that this whole epidemic of trans women being murdered is cis women's fault. That is ridiculous for somebody to even think that. What we're saying is that just in the same way that we were just talking about light-skinned women and how we have a responsibility to say and do things to dismantle and do our work to dismantle colorism, there is everybody, cis men, gay, cis men, lesbians, trans women, trans men, we all have the work to do to dismantle transphobia. And so this is our way, to me, of saying that this is the things that you can do to contribute to dismantle that. This if you don't want to, cool. But if you believe in that transphobia should be dismantled, if you're not a bigot, if you feel that this is something important to dismantle, then this is the part of the work. This is the part of the work about making space for people to be comfortable to talk about their trans attraction.
Yeah, and I think that as a cis, quote unquote straight woman for all intents and purposes, I think that when we talk about it, like how you say, this is not saying we're adding another burden or we're throwing something else onto your plate, right? As a cis straight woman, I think that for all of us who experience privilege at whatever intersection of privilege you are, the cost of your privilege, what you offer in exchange, like we have privilege as cis women. It is important that we fucking, I was going to use a bad metaphor, like pay your fare or whatever the fuck, but like, it's not a burden. Like, I feel like a lot of people with privilege interpret taking steps that seem extra, interpret it as a burden. But if you are not doing this work, your privilege comes at the expense of somebody. You know what I'm saying? And so if you are not doing the work to dismantle whatever system allows you, whatever privilege you have, you just kind of like you're a leash to the system. You're fucking, I'm just trying to communicate that it shouldn't be seen as a burden. You know what I'm saying? It should be seen the price to pay for the privilege that you have. I know that you know that, Diamond. But
I'm saying I totally get you. And I think if you're looking at it as a burden, to me, I feel like you're like the Karens of the world who don't want to fix the problem. Right. And at any moment, they can say, "Oh, I'm not racist. Oh no, da 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 da." But at any moment, they're on that phone calling the police. A Black man is attacking me in the Rumble, or is it the Rumble? Is that how you say it? Is attacking me in the Rumble, and you'll be that person. You're saying it's a burden because you really don't want to give up that power and give up that privilege.
And it is really for those of us who don't want to risk our standing with whatever man we're dating, like that's honestly another way to test their homophobia. Like if there are people who would be so turned off even that you would have the quote unquote nerve to ask that question, you know what I'm saying? To me, that's a red flag there. I don't want to date you if you can't handle me asking who you love when all of us love so many different kinds of people. Like, but I know that there are those of us who just want to maintain that status quo and don't want to make someone upset by asking that question and are comfortable dating people upset at considering that trans folks exist. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And that's a part of the problem too. It's really not enough to just say stop killing trans women. It's really not enough to just say that we should all be equal or whatever the fuck. Like we have to really think about what we're doing, you know.
And understand where that transphobia lies. So if you are saying stop killing trans women, oh, I love trans women, but then if your guy friend, and this doesn't say that you don't have a right to feel this. If your guy friend, if you don't want to date somebody that dates trans women, it's okay for you to not want that, but understand that that's transphobia. Understand that that's what it is, and accept that.
Right.
Yeah, I may be, because I as a trans woman, I may have some weird double standard in regards to some kind of another situation, because I'm kind of like that, and not in about transness, but about just other things that I might be uncomfortable, especially like in the position that he takes in the bedroom. I might not want to date somebody that's a bottom, or I might have some weird stuff like that, and that's where I'm at. It might be problematic, but I'm admitting that this may be problematic. So don't try to say that, oh, I like trans people, but I don't want, because there's dudes. Let me give you a perfect example. There's a dude who I was dating years ago. Like I'm talking about like 2004, 2005. That was the first time we hooked up, and we may have had a hooked up again maybe in 2012. But because we had a mind connection, we stayed friends. We didn't hook up again, but we stayed friends. And so we would talk about gaming, just talk about shit outside of sex, because we didn't live around each other and blah, 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 blah. He started dating this girl. This is maybe like 10 years outside of us hooking up. And he would ask me, he would come to contact me about advice with women. And he was like, I want to tell her that I have had an experience, because we're in the stage of our dating where we're talking about sex and things that we've done in the past.
Right.
And he says, I want to tell her that I messed around with a trans woman, because she has told me that she has had a bisexual experience or a gay experience with a woman. And, you know, she considers herself not necessarily bi. She like Queen, where Queen is like, I romantically like men, but I'll include a woman.
But Queen does identify as bi. But yeah, I feel
bi, yeah.
Yes.
So she'll say that I want to. She was explaining that to him, and so he was like, "Ooh, this is a moment for me to share my experience with a trans woman, because I've never been with a man, but I have been with a trans woman, and I want to share this with her because I like her. This relationship is going well. I want to be open and honest. We've been dating for like a year, he said like 9 months, and I want to be open and honest with her." Me being the pessimistic and scary one, I'm like, ooh, I wouldn't tell her, because that might get ugly. He was like, no, she's cool. She's great. And I was like, okay, cool. As soon as he tells her, she breaks up with him.
Oh my gosh.
And tells him that I don't want to do who dates trans women. And he was like he showed her my picture, and like he just was being so open and honest about the experience, because she was being open and honest about her experience. And she literally broke up with him, and he was devastated. So now he's in a situation where I'm not telling anybody. Right. I can't tell anybody about this, because I have got this such bad reaction. And now I'm in the position where I told you, but I also in a position where like you might come across a woman who won't respond like that. Yeah. I don't know how to respond I don't know how to talk to men in a way when this is the response that they are getting when they are being honest. And so I don't know. I really do. I feel like, do you want to date somebody who's transphobic though? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's sad. That's a sad story, but she was transphobic. And if you love trans folks on any level, right? Like friendly, romantically, like, do you want to date somebody that's transphobic? But I think some people don't care. It's like when people date anti-Black people. Right. Yeah. They don't care. Yeah. Like, I don't think he cares. That's what you, like you were saying, be honest about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you don't care whether or not you date somebody who's transphobic, if you don't care whether or not, cause that could mean anything. She could be doing any kind of damage. Her transphobia could be silent and just harmful on an individual level in that way. Or she could be at the freaking gas station, you know, freaking hitting a trans girl over her head in a group fight. Like, it's so many different layers to that. So it's like, how complicit do you want to be? So I get it. Like, I'm not saying that this is out of the realm of my understanding. Like, I fully get that there are people who like, they don't care and like, that's okay. But I think that when we engage with those people, I think it's important that we need to call it what it is. Like, I think it's okay for us to be understanding that, okay, you're just a bigot. You know what I'm saying? All right. I get it. But I'm not going to not call you a bigot. You know what I mean? But I think that, yeah, like, I think
letting him know that it is transphobic, but you know, however he wants to move, I guess is his choice. But
yeah,
I mean, I don't know.
yeah. Well, thank you, Janicia.
Thanks for having me. We talked about all kind of stuff I didn't expect to talk about. Oh my goodness. Oh my God.
Yes.
Sorry. I don't like talking about dating these niggas. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I sounded cuckoo. But it caught me off guard. I didn't expect to go there.
No, I think it went brilliant. I think
I do.
if you listen to Marsha's play and you are listening, you are looking for cis women who just get it, who are just, they analyze things from a different outside the box level that, you know, I just think T with J, y'all just one of my favorite podcasts. Y'all just brilliant. So if you want to listen to them, go check them out. And if you want to follow Janicia, where can they follow you?
Yes. So if you want to follow me via the podcast, our social handles on Twitter and Instagram are at T with QJ, and that's on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to follow me personally, I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Janicia F. That's JANICIAF. And usually I say the F is for savings, but I know that that's silly. So F is in Frank or whatever. You know.
And don't call her a fucking lady.
Yes, my pronouns are she, her, they, them, and I'm not a lady. So there's only one lady here in this call, and it's Diamond. I'm not a lady, please. I appreciate acknowledging that. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you. I will put her links down in the bottom. Go check her out. Thank you, Janicia.
Yes. Thanks for having me, Diamond. This was so much fun. Thank you.
Oh.